People are killing each other. What we've done under the Kansas-Nebraska Act, thank you, Stephen Douglas, is provide an arena for our animosity and our hatred and our sectionalism to come forward and fight each other out. We've provided the perfect arena for it to happen, and it's too bad. And that guy will come fill the arena. Yeah, his name is John Brown. He's an abolitionist, and yes, he goes out to Pottawatomie Creek in Kansas. And when he gets mad at some border ruffians, what does he do to them? When he finds out border ruffians have done some damage to some free soil types, what does he do? He hacks them to death. No, he doesn't kill them. He hacks them to death. So at Pottawatomie Creek is the massacre that shows just how bad it is. And you got battle after battle after battle there out in Kansas between these two. Is the issue ever resolved? It's not ever resolved. Kansas, well, whoop, my time machine has not backed up my Mac in those days. Okay, let's take care of that. And what we'll have now is Bleeding Kansas, and you'll have dueling people trying to get Kansas as free or slave. The slave guys get a great constitution together. They say, here's our constitution. It's going to be perfect. The free soil types boycott it. It gets voted on by a majority of the population of the territory of Kansas, sent back to the United States Congress. Hi, we're Kansas. We want to be a slave state. Stephen Douglas, to his credit, says, oh no, the election was fraudulent. The Lecompton Constitution is denied. So who's hated by the pro-slavery types? Good old Senator Stephen Douglas from Illinois, a very powerful Democrat. To show the tenor of debate after Bleeding Kansas, after the Kansas-Nebraska Act, is the Brooks-Sumner debate. Sumner is a brilliant senator from the North. Charles Sumner is an abolitionist. Charles Sumner's brilliant, articulate, and hated and detested by everyone. Well, after Bleeding Kansas, he stands up on the floor of the United States Senate, points to the senator from South Carolina and says, you and your type are hirelings, male prostitute, picked from the drunken spew and vomit of an uneasy civilization, meaning the South. You want to call somebody out? That's a pretty good way to call somebody out. Hirelings picked from the drunken spew and vomit of an uneasy civilization. Well, needless to say, the senator from South Carolina's nephew, Mr. Brooks, got a little upset and says, well, I can't duel him because he's not a human being, Mr. Sumner. So I'm going to walk into the United States Senate and I'm going to beat him with my gold-tipped cane to a pulp, putting him in the hospital for 2 years. And the Brooks-Sumner debate on the floor of the United States Senate, where they are clearing away and laughing well at Mr. Sumner getting beaten up by Preston Brooks, the South Carolina congressman, defending the honor of his uncle, shows the tenor of debate in 1857 in the United States of America. Because it's just not working. It doesn't work. Okay? And Mr. Brooks will get reelected as a congressperson. He won't be allowed to sit for those following 6 years. And he also will get hundreds of gold-tipped canes in celebration of his beating the living daylights out of Mr. Sumner. The Republican Party has formed ever since 1854 in the Kansas-Nebraska Act. You have a free soil, free labor, free men party formed in response to the Kansas-Nebraska Act. I can't emphasize that enough. The Republican Party will replace the Whig Party. The Whig Party cannot hold itself together as a Southern and Northern party. It will die in the 1852-1854 time period, and the Republican Party will come forward. Upon what ideology is it based? Economic expansion. We're making money for rich people here in America and for the poor guy too. It's based upon the Homestead Program. Free soil out west for any man who wants it. Sean Sweeney, are you going to join the Republican Party? Because the federal government's going to give you free land out west. That's a good deal. What else is it based upon? Internal improvement. Sounds like the American system. We're going to take federal government money and we're going to build roads and harbors and bridges and stuff like that, and railroads? You betcha. Sounds a lot like the American program. What else are we going to do? Oh, high tariffs? It is the American program. Wow, let's just do it. Have high tariffs to protect rich businessmen. Love that. Internal improvements so people can go out west. Sean Sweeney loves that. And then Sean Sweeney's going to get free land out west. Sounds like a pretty good party for all of those economic reasons. Individualism personified in the Republican Party. That's who Republicans are. Individuals pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, going out west with government assistance of high tariffs and internal improvements to allow them to do that. And it's going to be the opposition to the extension of slavery. We are not all abolitionists. In fact, most Republicans are not abolitionists. They don't like black people. They have nothing about black people they like. But we don't want slavery extended out west where, what? They'll take away the jobs of the individual white man out west. Therefore, I got racist New England, New York, Irish guys who joined the Republican Party because they want free land out west. They don't want slavery out west. Joining with abolitionists in the same political party. All of whom want the federal government to help them, even though the individualism is the idea, to help them make money. It's an incredible party. The one final thing, and it may not be on the slide, it's an entirely sectional party. Is there any Republican down in Atlanta, Florida, Georgia? It is a sectional party. Election of 1856, Republicans will put forward a candidate. Democrats will put forward a guy named James Buchanan. Yeah, not Buchanan. James Buchanan has been the ambassador to London. He's not been touched by or have anything to do with the Kansas-Nebraska Act. The Democrats go, James Buchanan, with your head tilted to the side because your eyeballs don't work unless your head's tilted to the side, we'll put you in. And the Republicans nominate the hero, yeah, right, of the Mexican War, John C. Fremont, the old pathfinder who made his way across the country. Yeah, Fremont, California, all those things, Fremonts are named after him. He will be the Republican candidate, and James Buchanan will win. Oh, this is where the Know-Nothing Party comes from. Millard Fillmore will now be an anti-immigrant group. Let's not deal with the issue of slavery. Let's just deal with what? Anti-immigrants. And this is where the anti-immigrant sentiment comes forward. Millard Fillmore will be the Know-Nothing or the American Party candidate. And of course, Buchanan will win the election of 1856. And what happens then? Well, Buchanan says, don't worry, vote for me. There's a Supreme Court decision coming that will solve the issue of slavery for the American people. Because James Buchanan is very good friends with Roger Taney. And Roger Taney, Supreme Court Justice, replacing John C. Marshall in his brilliance. Roger Taney will say there's a decision coming up. And the decision is Dred Scott. Dred Scott is that person you see there. Dred Scott is a slave. He is a slave taken from Missouri up to Minnesota. In Minnesota, his master dies. Well, now, what is his status? He's in a free territory. The Minnesota Territory does not allow slavery according to the Missouri Compromise. Now, he sues to be free. He and some abolitionists up there. Because his owner's dead, he's living in a free territory. He says, I'm free. Of course, the heirs of the owner say, oh no, he's still ours. And what you have is this Supreme Court decision by Taney. And Taney comes forward and says, I will make the decision. And the facts of the case I've just explained, what is the ruling or holding of it? The decision said that Dred Scott cannot sue. He's a slave. He's not a citizen of the United States. Throw the suit out of federal court. Get out of here. And it could have been left at that. But Taney goes, oh no, I'm going to take the next step. I'm going to say, as a slave, he is property. And if you read the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution, that life and liberty and property cannot be taken away by our federal government without due process of law. What does that mean? Due process of law says what? You can't take away somebody's property. Therefore, slave as property, when taken to Minnesota, cannot be taken away from the heirs. He's a piece of meat that belongs to the heirs. And the federal government can't take him away. Therefore, what can the federal government never do? Bar slavery anywhere that's a territory of the United States. This becomes the best and biggest weapon of the South. The Supreme Court has now weighed in and said slavery can never be outlawed in any territory, and by extension, in any state. Wow. And the result of that is enormous. Fortunately, we have a guy named Abraham Lincoln. He's a Republican. He's going to run against Stephen Douglas, the Democrat, for the Illinois senator's job. Now remember, it's the senators selected by the state legislature, but they have a series of debates. And the series of debates will be for that Senate seat from Illinois. And probably the Federalist Papers, pretty good on the issues of our nation and our life, back there with Madison and all those guys. These debates are pretty good. I mean, Douglas is brilliant, Lincoln's brilliant, and the debate is great. And they're held in a series of towns. One of the towns is called Freeport. And in Freeport, Lincoln demonstrates his brilliance. Yeah, don't worry, next week we'll watch the movie. He demonstrates his brilliance. He asks Douglas a question. Douglas, you believe in popular sovereignty. You believe that is the way to solve the issue of slavery out west in the territories. Do you believe in that, Stephen Douglas? Or do you believe in the Dred Scott decision that says the federal government can never ban slavery? And Stephen Douglas says, faithfully, I, as a Democrat from Illinois, believe in popular sovereignty. And guess what? The South hates his guts. And there's a final kind of knife in the belly for the United States. Oh, John Brown! The guy that hacked 6 people to death out of Pottawatomie Creek in Kansas? Well, now he says, let's bring slaves and white people together to foment a rebellion, a revolution. Let's go seize some arms in 1859 from the Treasury of Arms, from the arsenal there in Harper's Ferry, Virginia. And what does he do? He does. He leads a rebellion. He seizes these arms. Well, Robert E. Lee and the state militia goes and stops him. It's a botched attempt. But Robert E. Lee says, we're going to stop him. We'll arrest him and we'll put him on trial. And what is the result of the trial for treason and fomenting a rebellion? John Brown, radical. John Brown, psychopath. John Brown, murderer, turns into martyr. And from murderer to martyr, he becomes the martyr for all the blacks and all the abolitionists because he peacefully, beatifically goes to his death for the issue of freedom of black people. And he doesn't really kiss the little black baby as he's led out. And he's not beautifully there, nicely done. All the guy's a raving maniac. But right at the right moment, he becomes the martyr for the cause to allow for this great thing to happen. Him dying for the issue of freedom for black people. Obviously in the South, what do you fear? Well, we got Northerners coming into Virginia at Harper's Ferry, seizing weapons to give the black slaves so they can kill me and rape my wife. That's John Brown. That's Harper's Ferry for the white Southerner. It has become intolerable what's going on. The Supreme Court has said slavery should happen everywhere, and yet we are facing this danger coming from the North. Be it Harriet Beecher Stowe and her Uncle Tom's Cabin, be it John Brown and his raids on armories trying to kill people. It is over. Now, we will stop there because the election of 1860 will be dealt with in class as the start of the American Civil War. Irrepressible, repressible. Can we just compromise politically and solve this issue? Or is it a social and economic issue that we can't compromise, that we have to actually fight a war about? Your choice, your decision.